This episode builds upon previous episode. Today we will talk about Swift's another superpower called ViewModifiers and how it helps to keep code clean, concise and readable. So let's get started. In previous episode, we extracted the code out and made separate views. Now we would inspect these views and see how can we write and apply view modifier. So we will try to find the opportunities in these views and see if there is a possibility that we can write a view modifier and reuse that code. So start with the social login. If you glance at it, you will see that there is a code repetitions over here, as well as the shapes or styling in your app. You can extract those code out as a view modifier and use it. So we'll take that opportunity, look through the code and see what we can do. Here we have a social login. There is a repeated code. If we go to sign up, then we can see there is a styling that we can use. How this is rounded button. We might want to have a styling in our app as rounded button, as well as this card like shape. But before that, I'll take you to the Apple documentation. And view modifier can be very handy when you're trying to make a code readable and also concise, and as well as it definitely increase code readability so much. We are skipping all of this part, and this function body is the most important part of the section that we are going to take. So just keep in mind and bear with me, and I'll explain everything along the way. First of all, before we do that, what we want to do is trying to find the places where we can make a view modifier. So for the candidate for that, if I come to login view, when I try to do is I always see when there is like too many modifiers are going on. That is my favorite way to start. If this can be bundled into another modifier, then it will be just a one line here that will be calling that modifier, which in turn gonna call all of these modifiers. So if we see this, all this padding, background, corner radius, and all that is basically creating card-like shape in the background. I'm gonna create another group here. Backgrounds. For this one, we can just create a Swift file because we don't need other mumbo jumbo. So we'll start with this. It needs to conform to protocol called the ViewModifier, and ViewModifier have one function called body that we have to implement. Now this content, and then we can padding to this content. So if we see what this is doing, the content or the view that where we are implementing card shape, a padding, let's say a padding of 60. And if I choose this button, put the modifier here, background card shape, it created this huge padding around it. And we need create modifier of this one. This is the one which is creating this card like shape. Put that, all of that in here. But interesting part is if you see this color is the background color of that view. We have to somehow pass that background color to this view modifier. In order to do that, we're going to start with the enum. That enum will returning itself the actual color. So for example, I'll start with these colors here. So now we have this a card color. These colors are here, and these colors, whenever we are selecting these colors are going to give me the color object. So here what we have to do is we have to pass in the color. So now we can see that we have to pass the color over here. So since we know this is the struct, we can have let card color a variable or a constant to initialize with the card color. What we can do is we can put the card color and then call that method on its type. So to use this one, what we need to go back to the login view, get rid of this, and this is the color that we want. So get rid of this, modifier and call a background card shape and give it a card color which we have here as our case is Bravo. Nothing has changed. Let's do the same thing with sign up. Right here we have a cadet blue, so instead of this we can write cadet blue, which is already available there. And if you resume, nothing has changed. Just to demonstrate, this was the previous, now it's running. It can be done on many things. One is, when I'm looking at it, that we have these buttons for the login and the sign up, and it seems like they are the same, only except the color. So let's try to create a route and button shape modifier here, and then try to implement on these buttons. So in its route and button shape, we are trying to do the same thing. We're keeping all the colors. Background color is the same. Then we have this button color here, and then we're going to pass the button color in. It's not a button, but the text, button text. So I think we can change that to a button text. Dot modifier, and of course we have to give color. These lines are gone, and we have just one modifier, and we'll do the same thing with other view. The next thing that I'm looking, if you go back to the social login, these buttons are having a distinct shape. How we can improve this? Let's call it a social button modifier. There are a few things that we have to keep in mind here, that what we can take inside the view modifier and what not. The modifier is a view, and of course image also the view, but it has a specific modifier that can be only implemented here. So even if we want to, we cannot take all of these with ourselves. We have to take the most generic that apply to any of the view. It's resizable and the rendering mode view modifier that are specifically can be applied to the image. So we'll take all these. We have created this social button modifier. Now we can go back and if you run it, you can see that all of the are still the same. So this example that I'm going to give you next can lead you towards that you can create your style guideline with view modifiers, and it will be easier when you are trying to implement your style guide. So for example, I'll call it a screen title text. This we have the font weight and the title and the foreground color. And this is another specific example that font weight can only be implemented to the text, but foreground color and the font title or the font are valid for all other views. So that's why I changed this, and I'm going to create a view modifier out of it. Fast forwarding, and this is what we have. So we have the foreground title and the font title, and foreground color is a white. What I can do is everywhere I can apply this modifier by calling screen title text, and we can do the same thing, screen title text stick, and instead of this again, and if you try to build this, okay, I think I missed something here, that we have to have the bold, so it has to come after the bold. That's why it matters where the modifier are. Stay tuned until next time, where we explore more real-life use case of using Swift and Swift UI. Please subscribe and don't forget to hit the notification bell. Thank you. See you next time.